The Cupertino Sports Center is a tennis haven for those who have had a difficult time finding open courts in the past. But tennis isn't the only game in town, as you'll soon find out. Hi, I'm Susan Robinson. On this edition of Take 53, we'll join Cupertino Sports Committee Chairperson Sharon Colman to find out more about what the Interim Use Committee has planned for the new center, as well as the current state of open space and recreation in our city. That's all next on Take 53.
When you care for trees, you'll hear the birds sing. Relax in the shade and taste the fruits of your labor. Your trees will help you save energy, increase the value of your home, and make it the envy of your neighborhood. Tell me, sir, how does your forest grow? This is Eddie Albert. Write the National Arbor Day Foundation for your free How to Prune guide and help make your town a Tree City, USA.
A lovely home, good friends, fun times, the good life all Americans want. Nonprofit continuing care retirement communities have made that dream available to older Americans. Nonprofit continuing care, or life care, enables older people to live independently, secure that if help is ever needed, it will be there in a caring environment. To learn about nonprofit continuing care, contact the American Association of Homes for the Aging. At AHA, we're communities that care.
Welcome to Take 53. I'm Susan Robinson, here with Sharon Colman, who chairs the Sports Center Interim Use Committee, as well as the Parks and Recreation Commission. Sharon, thanks for joining me on Take 53 today.
It's my pleasure.
As I mentioned earlier, the new Sports Center isn't just for tennis players only. It's been, as a matter of fact, promoted as a multi-sport facility. What does your committee intend to use it for as a multi-use facility?
Well, the charter the committee was given was looking at the new Cupertino Sports Center the way it is right now, to go ahead and bring it up and get it running as soon as possible. We were also given the direction to enforce a multi-use type of philosophy, to make sure that as many different groups of our public can come ahead and use the facility. After we've looked at the facility and gone through it, there are basically 4 major areas that we feel we can take advantage of at this time. And that is tennis courts. There are 12 lit courts, as well as the five courts off on the other side. There's a small pool. There is a big meeting facility with a restaurant attached to it. And there are some racquetball courts. We looked at the possibility of trying to add in other things at this time, but given that other things might be done with the facility in the long term, we're just going to focus on these 4 areas for our multi-use activities.
I see, so it really can be used for many uses, definitely not just tennis. Also, what part will it play in the whole Memorial Park complex, including the Senior Center as well as the Quinlan Community Center?
This is something that both the Parks and Recreation as well as the City Council is focusing on right now. We see that this new Cupertino Sports Center, and one of the reasons it was purchased, was that it's very complementary to this whole complex that we have at that square. There's plenty of room to do a lot of different things. And what we'd like to do is, looking back at our old recreation needs survey that we sponsored about 2 years ago, as well as taking new public feedback, we'd like to see how can we use this facility, blend it into all of Memorial, and really make that the true multi-use, multi-sport complex. So that is probably not going to happen until the completion of this. There will be a series of public hearings. Although we'd like to feel like the committee has all the great ideas, we always need more from the public. So this process, and when the whole plan is drawn together, we feel it's probably going to be 3 years down the line.
I see. I was just going to ask you how long. So 3 years, we can expect it all to be functioning together as a whole?
3 years would be a nice target. We have not set a plan as yet, and as any kind of public process that you're aware of, gathering all the feedback can be quite a lengthy process. Whether or not we want to go ahead and put in a gym, would we want to put in a swimming pool? Would we want to add some other things that we've talked about, such as sand volleyball courts, etc. We would really want to see the changing needs of the community and match it to that. So it would take quite a while.
I see. Now, as far as the interim use committee that I mentioned before that you serve on, I understand that the council formed this to find a use for the facility under its present condition. What is the present condition of the facility, and what will it be used for right now?
Well, the condition, the information about the condition of the building to the committee has changed since the very first day that we had the committee formed. When we first got in there, we were looking at the facility as a whole, but given some recent information, we found out that the building needed some pretty major renovation. Right now, they're looking at the roof, which needs to be replaced or have some parts of it reinforced. Balcony, inside windows, mirrors, etc. As a result of the earthquake and just general repair and maintenance, the building will not be available to us until probably after October. So what the committee has done is broken our task into two different stages. One being the temporary stage, where we go ahead and say, what can we do with the outside of the building and get access to the public as soon as possible. And we've done that. All the tennis courts are open. There's also a bathroom and changing area, and we're actually starting to add like a pro shop. A couple of little amenities to really make it comfortable for the public. Stage 2 then will be incorporating the building, and that will be opening up this great meeting room or restaurant capability, as well as the racquetball courts. We feel in general that even in the condition or without changing anything of the building, it can still be a very exciting meeting place for Cupertino to come and visit.
I see. So the immediate upgrades that will be made will be strictly to the outside, or they will also be to the inside, the immediate upgrades?
Well, actually, we've done the immediate upgrades to the outside.
I see.
So the outside is fine. As far as the inside goes, that's what's now being repaired. And we're going through what you would call a fast-track repair system. So we're getting the whole building revamped so we can open it up as soon as possible.
I see. So when can we expect the full renovation to take place for the facility, and at what cost?
For the interim use.
For the interim use, and then let's talk long-term down the road.
Okay. Now, for a long-term, again, since we don't even have the plan in place and know what we would be putting in there, if we still use that 3 to 5 years target, I think that's probably pretty good. And the dollars associated with it would really come from what we decide to put in there. Obviously, a gym would be a little bit more expensive than a sand volleyball court. So those things are unknown at this time. As far as the interim use, which is the building renovation, there have been estimates up to a couple of $100,000 in order to get the building up into usable condition. And that's what we hope to have done by October. So that's pretty much all that's happening at this time. And I think by October, we will basically have the facility in the condition that it will remain until this master plan is put together.
Right. I had heard an estimate in an article of $400,000. Is that just the high end?
We're hoping it is. Actually, we don't know for sure. Again, they're working on, I think the roof is definitely the most expensive part. You don't want people exercising and having pieces of tile fall down on them. So that's really something that it has been estimated to have the most expense associated with it.
I see.
So hopefully in the next week or two we'll know. And we're hoping that we can probably come in way under budget so we can get some nice furniture for the outside.
I see. I've also heard that the interim use committee supports the management of the new sports center by the Parks and Recreation Department. Do you think that that will be taking on a lot, considering that they also manage the Quinlan Center, or how do you think that will work, and how did the committee come to that decision?
What the committee has gone through recently, we evaluated whether or not we should have the city continue to manage the facility as was recommended under the first couple of months, or should we hire out to other contractors, whether they be general or subcontractors, to run different parts of the facility. We had several contractors come through and look at the building, look at the whole facility, but given at the time that everybody looked at it, the building was not being worked on. We did not have a date as far as when it was going to be done. We did not get as many responses as we had hoped. So as a result, we felt that under this stage of changing condition of the building, of the outside, of everything being pulled together, that it would be best for the Parks and Rec staff to take care of it, and they're doing a great job at it. In the long term, or not even in the long term, the interim committee will look again at bringing in contractors once the building has been completed, because we feel at that time we'll have a finished product that a contractor can come and run in a very usable manner for the public. So that's kind of the process that we've gone through. As far as the Parks and Recreation Department being overloaded right now with all the different facilities that have been opened, I think it's really a sign of the times. Recreation, open space, these types of demands are really very popular, or really in the forefront of everybody's mind as part of a quality of life issue. So the Parks and Recreation Department is getting a lot of demand, but I think they're going to go ahead and grow with the demand.
So you think that they'll be able to meet the need,
right?
Even though they're getting into a lot of new areas right now with a lot of facilities opening up, but they'll be able to meet the need by the new centers and new facilities.
Well, depending on what the final plan that we have in place, whether it be run by the Parks and Recreation staff or we have it subcontracted out, we will have that plan put forward to council so that the required resources are there.
I see. What has the response to the new sports center been like?
For the people, well, I can talk from attendance. When we first opened up, of course, you have a couple of the tennis courts full. And right now, since tennis is really the only active sport, that's really the only thing we can judge on. Now, they're practically full all the time. And that was with, we had pretty much evening hours and weekend hours, and we've just extended the hours to see what the demand is then. So from the community that is directly benefiting from the center, it's very positive. I think the rest of the community is waiting for us to see how are we going to incorporate this into the master plan so that it can benefit more than one or two or a couple of different groups.
I see. So as the word's gotten out, it's gotten more and more popular and used more and more.
Yes.
I see. Well, it's already time for our first break. But when we return, we'll find out about a survey that played a large part in the purchase of the new Cupertino Sports Center. That's next on Take 53.
Come from?
What's wrong, Vince?
My woman's done left me, my dog ran away, and people still aren't wearing their safety belts.
Aw, Vince, you singing those buckle up blues again?
Some people don't wear their seat belts. I can't believe it's true. Those kind of people get knocked right out of their shoes. So buckle up, baby. Don't sing me those buckle up blues.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
I mean it, baby. Buckle, honeysuckle, buckle, yeah.
And welcome back to Take 53. I'm Susan Robinson with Sharon Colman, Cupertino Sports Center Committee Chairperson, talking about the new Sports Center. Sharon, I know a survey was conducted to find out the value that the residents place on open space and recreation here in the city and what types they would like to see here. What did you find out from the survey and what response have you made by the survey results?
There were a couple of very good points that came out of the survey. One, it helped us prioritize in the community some of the changing needs for recreation. For instance, maybe a gym is needed. There was a lot of requests for trails, for walking around things, for senior citizens as well as families, etc. Some of the other points that it also showed was that people were very happy with the services that the Parks and Recreation Department is showing now, and that they're doing a good job with all of their programs. It also showed that there was a concern about losing any of the existing recreation or open space land. And that was one of the main factors in the survey that actually sponsored our last bond measure. But we looked at that and we said, okay, let's look at the different properties in the town that are recreation oriented, whether they be private or publicly owned, and which ones should we try to put together a fund to preserve. One of the pieces of property obviously was the Cupertino Sports Center spot, and it was right prime time, even though it was prime property right downtown, and it could have been developed to be used as something else. We felt that because of its location, particularly to Memorial Park, would really offer a nice community spot where people can come, congregate, and meet. So we felt for that reason that we needed to preserve that property as well. We're now going through the process and also looking at the other available resources within Cupertino, and again asking the question, how do we prioritize these pieces of property, such as the golf courses we have in town, maybe the open space, the quarry area, some of the school sites, etc. Because the town itself does not have the money to buy all these things, and it's really getting to the point where if the public really wants to help us or really wants to preserve Cupertino and balance the life the way it is right now, that we are going to need and offer support financially as well as getting out there and raising awareness.
Interesting. You mentioned that the survey did bring out that the citizens have fears about losing some of that open space. Do you feel the purchase of the new center has maybe laid aside some of those fears, that the city really is interested in preserving these things?
I think to certain groups, yes, because clearly the facility services some recreation needs, but not all. There's some groups, actually a lot of groups, that would be interested in keeping just the open space, maybe not even active open space, available to all of the people in the town. So I like to look at this as the first in several steps of preserving different types of recreation and open space for the long term for Cupertino. So to answer your question, it satisfied one group. We need to go ahead and make sure that we satisfy all groups.
I see. And as far as purchasing more land in the city, did the survey indicate that the citizens would like more land purchased for open space, seeing as how there's a premium price for land in the city? It goes for about $1 million an acre. Would the citizens still like to see more land purchased, and is that possible?
Purchase is kind of an interesting word, because if you say purchased and give me money for that, I think it raises a very different emotion than, do you want to lose this open space? So we are trying to go through an education process and say, okay, if we want to maintain the open space element that is left in Cupertino, then we need to purchase it. Some private individual needs to purchase it and save it, or we need to all pull together to make sure that this land is kept open. We just can't do it on our own. So there's definitely a real feeling of trying to preserve that open space. I think we just have to match the support to it.
I know with purchasing this sports center, there were a couple groups we should probably mention who were very influential in the city in the council making that decision to purchase it. And those were, for instance, the Cupertino Tennis Club, as well as the Citizens to Save Cupertino Recreation. Were they really influential, and how did they help sway the council to purchase that?
I think in the overall, as any kind of decision is made, right, a lot of it comes from the visibility. The council needs to see that feedback, whether they receive it through written communication or people actually coming to Parks and Recreation meetings as well as council meetings. We're all here to solicit the feedback to really understand what's happening. And those two groups were very influential as far as making this a priority, making sure that the council understood that this was a valuable piece of property. And as we look at other pieces of property again in the community, we're going to hope that other groups come forward and offer support as well, and let us all understand how much it really means to them.
So that's a key factor, attending the meetings, having a group join together to fight for what they want, if they want open space.
Or I'd rather not say fight, but even offer creative solutions.
Right, to be there to lend support.
Right.
That's a better way to say it.
I mean, hopefully we're all on the same side, and
Right.
we're all trying to figure out the best way to do it as well. So any citizen out there that has a great idea of how we can preserve this open space and save money at the same time, we're waiting to hear from all of them.
Okay, so anyone can get involved in this. Anybody who's a citizen can
Right.
get involved in helping and in making their opinions known.
That's very key. That's very
I
key.
see.
In fact, just recently we started talking about peripheral property around the community that might even affect people from other communities. And so we heard from citizens from Sunnyvale, from Los Altos, from neighboring towns who also use our facilities. They come in, they use our recreation areas, they come and shop in our stores. And they came forward and told us how they benefit from these pieces of property. That's very good information as well.
So even people living outside of our city can have an influence. Okay, well, it's time for us to take another break. But when we return, we'll find out more about the inside of the new sports center and how you can make the best use of it.
Fozzie, what is this?
Oh, Kermit, it's my new ball.
I'm talking about this mess.
Oh, that was the packaging.
You know, Fozzie, when you buy things that are overpackaged, you create more garbage and hurt the environment.
I do?
Try to choose products that aren't overpackaged and recycle whenever you can.
You mean like this banana peel?
You can recycle a banana peel?
Sure. Yeah!
To find out how you can help, write to Make a Difference, National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C. 20036.
Isn't comedy wonderful?
All day I face the barren waste without the taste of water.
Wait, Tom, you're supposed to sing water.
I can't.
Why not?
Water's a precious commodity, and we've got to conserve it, especially here in the Santa Clara Valley.
Tom, but in this song, it's just a word.
And the word is conserve it.
Tommy's right.
Saving water, part of the new California lifestyle. This message is brought to you by the Santa Clara Valley Water District.
So save it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're back for the final stretch of Take 53. I'm Susan Robinson, here with Sharon Colman, CSC Committee Chairperson. Sharon, everyone has just seen the fee structure for the new sports center. What was the philosophy behind this fee structure?
Well, actually our committee went around and around on trying to figure out what type of fees we should really put onto the new sports center. But there has been some guidelines given to us through the council and also the Parks and Recreation Commission. And that is that basically the town has put forward and purchased this. And now the users of it should basically provide the funds to cover the ongoing operating costs. So what we're looking at as we develop the plan for this interim period for the next 3 years or so is to make sure that all of the revenue that we are able to produce will cover both staffing and expenses over this time. We don't expect that to happen right away because we are going to have to ramp up the business, but that is our goal. And we felt that with these initial fees, it would give us a good way to start looking at whether or not we're going to be able to meet those goals.
So the fees are to cover the costs, really. It's not a money-making venture for the city.
No, Parks and Recreation is not really a money-making operation for the town. Our philosophy throughout for any of our programs have really been just to cover costs.
Okay, great. I also want to talk a little bit about the facilities that are available right now, namely tennis, which everyone is interested in. How many courts did you mention are available right now?
There are 12 really nice lit courts available in the facility. There are another 5 courts that we kind of use as overflow courts. They're not lit. However, with all the tournaments that take place during the summer, we have been opening up those 5 courts to be used for the tournaments as well.
I see. And you mentioned that they are getting full now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we don't seem to be having any problem over weekends or even during, I understand, from 5:30 on. that the courts are really pretty crowded. And we have to give a lot of credit to the local tennis clubs, such as the Cupertino Tennis Club, as well as the Volvo Series, which is a very active tennis tournament for bringing in a lot of new people to the facility, to getting people to try it out.
I see. Now, as far as reserving these courts, I know everyone's curious. It is open to residents and non-residents alike.
Yes, one of the ways we design the structure is that you can either go ahead and make a reservation whether or not you're a Cupertino resident or a non-resident. You do pay more being a non-resident, but we want to make it open to them, considering a lot of Cupertino people have partners from other parts of the county. What we're going to look at then after that is, or what we also provide, are drop-in fees, because we want to make this available. If a Cupertino resident wants to just come and drop by, they can go ahead and pay a lower fee and use any court that's available then as well. But we feel the convenience of having a reservation is really what this center is offering over having somebody go and having to put their rackets up and wait for a court at one of the other tennis areas in town.
And there are yearly passes available.
Yes. We tried out the yearly pass structure for several reasons. One, it was a way for us to get some money up front to fund some of the operation. And also we felt that for regular users, it was a way to give them a little break on the fee. So basically the membership, as in most clubs, the membership usually offers a better per hour rate than if you were just going to drop by or get a reservation. And these memberships are available to both single residents and non-residents, and we have a resident-only family pass.
I see. What about other facilities at the sports center? I know there's a swimming pool and racquetball courts and a weight room. How will these facilities be utilized?
Well, we're looking at each of those different facilities to make sure whether or not they could provide a self-maintaining program, again, to meet our financial goals. Looking at the pool, we feel that we can do a couple of things with that. We could have dedicated type of swim programs, aquatic exercise programs, maybe tiny tot float around programs. But basically very limited, because the pool is very small. You really cannot do lap swimming in it. As far as the rest of the building, we have the racquetball courts, which are in very good condition. We would just need to paint them, fix them up, and those can be used for reservations or drop-in. And the last area, which we're really excited about, is really the meeting facility. There's a full kitchen that can go ahead and prepare meals for, let's say, meetings or parties or banquets or whatever. And once the center is up, I would really encourage everybody to go look at it, because being surrounded by this wonderful view of outside activity is really an exhilarating thing to be surrounded by while you're celebrating.
Or in a meeting.
Or in a meeting. Then you'd be jealous, probably. You'd want to go out there.
That's great. So not only sports can take place there, but as you mentioned earlier, there are facilities for parties and civic meetings and things.
Right, right. And we see that as being something where you can really bring in the corporations and get them involved as well.
Okay, for all those who have questions about using the sports facility, about the other facilities offered there, there is a phone number posted on the screen where people can call. And what department will they be reaching when they?
It's going to be through our Parks and Recreation department.
Okay, and is there a phone number also directly at the center that they can call?
Yes, the number that they're being given is the number that you can call for reservations and for information about the new CSC Cupertino Sports Center.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us and filling us in on the new sports center and how we can all use it. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Take 53, and I'd encourage all of you to use our new sports center. I'm Susan Robinson for Take 53.